Welcome to our class for today. It's my pleasure welcoming you to our social study class. Today we are going to look at history of social study education in Nigeria. Before we go into our subject for today, let's remind ourselves of what we had in our last social study class. We discussed cultism was the topic we covered. We talk about the meaning, we talk about the causes, and we talk about the solution to cultism. If you've not watched that video, go over them. It's in the channel, navigate through, you will see them. If you are new on the channel, consider subscribing if you like what we do here. If you think there are others who can benefit from what we do here, invite them over to the channel. Share the videos, let people know what we do here. We are growing as a community. Let's keep growing. Let's bring in more people. If you like what we do here, give us a thumbs up. If you have questions, go below the comment box and ask your question. Thank you for being part of the class. Let's go to our class for today, history of social study education in Nigeria. I'm going to look at it from different perspectives, from what history is, from what social study is. Social study before the during the colonial period, before 1960, and then after 1960 till date. What is history? History has to do with study of past events, past records of things that happened. It can be in the political arena, in your own geographical area, whatever is documented to help people understand what happens in the past, events that took place in the past, why they happened, and what led to things that happened. That is history. So if we're going to bring history to social study, that is to say we want to talk about past events that led to the study of social study. What are those things that led to the study of social study? Now let me talk about social study as a subject. Social study has to do with the study of man and his immediate environment. Apart from being the study of man and his immediate environment, social study marry different subjects all together to bring about social studies. What are some of these subjects? We have geography, we have history, we have civic, we have economics, we have philosophy, and other things that help to put up the social study subjects. So, man needs to live in peace with his environment. Man needs to coexist with other men or other individuals in the environment. So social study focuses on the peaceful coexistence, the good relationship, man adapting to his environment, man living in peace with others, and how man influences his social environment. That is what social study it's all about. So it has to do with the study of man, his environment, and things that affect man within his environment, and how man can adapt to this changing situation that influences his environment. So now, if we put the social study and history, it has to do with the study of the past and present of man living to adapt to his immediate environment. Man being able to influence his environment, and man being able to live peacefully within his environment. This environment we're talking about can be your immediate community, it can be the community, and it can be the country at large and the world over. Alright, so have a look at social study from that angle. Now let's look at social study before 1960. Now social study before 1960 is what we're going to discuss. Remember, we are still talking about the history of social study in Nigeria educational system, but I'm just tracing it up from there. Let's take it gradually till we come together to form a whole of what Nigeria social study educational system is. Now, before 1960, history shows that Britain, the Great Britain, in 1820s, was the first to come up with a social studies subject. Remember I told you that social study did not come up as just a subject, social study. It was a combination of other subjects: geography, economics, civic, psychology, cultural knowledge, or general knowledge. So the Great Britain was the first to adapt this educational system, this subject area. After that, the United States followed the lead, and they were able to try to put in social study as a course in their educational system, and that spread all through Europe. And thereafter, it moves down to Africa, and that was when Nigeria accepted that subject area in their own curriculum or educational system. But before we talk about the Nigeria own system, remember Great Britain was those who colonized Nigeria, and this study area or this subject area was first adopted by the Great Britain. And so when they came as our colonial masters, they bring in their educational system, their value system into our own country. And then social study was introduced into our own curriculum, but not as social study. It was taught as general knowledge, as Christian religious studies, and as civic education. And so different parts of social study was embedded in this different subject area, and it was studied. As it was studied during the pre-colonial time, these were areas that these subject areas was introduced. But then something happened. Now we are going down again after the 1960s. After most African countries got their independence during the 1950s down to the 60s, Nigeria happens to have their own independence in the 60s. In the 1960s, when they got their own independence, they look at the educational system that we cater for the cultural belief system that we have, not being influenced by the foreign educational system that has been introduced to us by our colonial masters. And so that led to the restructuring of the educational system to cater for our own cultural needs, to cater for our own needs. And that led to some educational reformation that took place, even though we had some of those educational system that was carried over from the British system of education. We still have some elements of those educational system daring, but there was a reform, a restructuring to cater for our own personal Nigerian need. And that led to the 1960 restructuring of social study. This time around, since it was taught in different subject areas, they were embedded in different subject areas, there was need to create these subjects. And why does the world over think it is important to have a course like social study? After World War I and World War II, it became a fact to the world that man needs to live peacefully with his immediate environment. A man needs to live in peace with others that live with them. So there was need to teach peaceful education to citizenry of the world, not just a particular place, but in different parts of the world. So after World War II, social study became part of the educational system in most places, even in Nigeria. So after 1960, and there was this reform in curriculum and subject area, the Nigerian educational system introduced social studies. And there was a breaking point. This breaking point was when this subject was introduced in 1963 at Comprehensive High School, Ayetoro. So the Western region was the first, that's the Yorubas, they were the first to introduce social study into the educational system. It was like a test run in that zone. It was like trying out the process in that area. So Ayetoro Comprehensive High School become the #1 area. It became a pivotal area in carrying out this experiment. And so that was where it began. And after that, in 1982, there was the launch of this subject to other parts of the country. And when it was launched to other parts of the country, it was introduced to the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary institution. That's why you see that social study is taught in your primary education, or in your primary school, in your secondary school, and then they offer the courses in different tertiary institutions, NTI, colleges of education, universities. So this was how social study come to be part of the study of our educational system. And what was the major aim of this introduction? It was to help Nigerians to live peacefully, to coexist within themselves, to live as a team, to have peaceful living, to be united, a life devoid of war, a life that you watch out for your neighbor, a life that you can influence your environment and influence people around you for good. But then, the reason for introduction of social study education in our educational system, have we met the objective? The introduction of social study into our Nigerian system to cater for our own Nigerian needs. But looking back, since it's a study of history, looking back to date, have we met our objective? To an extent, no, we haven't. And to an extent, we can say some areas. But we know have it because it is aimed to help us live peacefully in our communities, in our environment. Have we achieved that purpose? Somehow, yes. But on the long run, we look at it, we have not, because we still have communal war. We have political uproar, and we still have corruption embedded in our system. So the history of Nigerian social study education is to help us be better citizens of our country, better persons who live in peace with each other, better team workers that helps in the economic development of our nation, being able to influence our environment for better. But today, have we influenced our environment for the better, since social study is the study of man and his environment? Look at your environment. How have we influenced our environment, and how have we adapted this social system into our environment? If you have followed along as I teach you this subject from JSS1, you know that anytime I teach you social study, I told you, it's a subject that helps us to be aware of the social issues we have in our country. So social study tackle our social issues. These social issues is on the increase. So when we trace the development and the history of social study, we are still evolving. Let's evolve into something good. Let this history show us that we still have a long way to go to make this subject what we planned it for. For those who plan the curriculum, it is aimed to make a better Nigeria. But do we have a better Nigeria? If your answer or my answer is yet to be in the yes, then we still have a lot of work to do. Since it is a social course that helps us to trace our history, to see how we better ourselves and how we better our nation, our community, our environment, let's do better. Let's go back. Go to your JSS1 class and see the purpose, objective of social study. When you study those objectives, you'll find out whether we are doing well or not. But conclusively, the history of social studies is to help us in a number of ways. First, we have seen what history is. We have seen what social study is. We have seen social study before 1960, how the Britons were the first to have it. And then, since they were our colonial masters, before 1960, they introduced it into our educational system. We had it, until the 1960, when we got our independence, we were looking for an educational system that can cater for the needs of our own country, Nigeria, and things that surrounds our environment. Since it is the study of man and his environment, our cultural belief system, our norms, and our personality, what can cater for it, we restructure it to suit our own educational system, and we have the social study of today. And looking down the lane, the purpose of which we have social study being taught in our school, we have it in different schools, our primary, secondary, tertiary institution, and they have been teaching this. The purpose of which it was put up, have we achieved it? No, to an extent. Yes, to a little. So we have achieved little out of the many reasons why we have put it together. So let's go to the objective. I'll put a link below the objective of social study in this class, below this video, so you can see the objective and evaluate the history and see, are we going forward, are we going back? That will be it for our history of social study education in our class for today. Thank you for dropping by. Thank you for being our community. I'll come your way next class when we discuss other social issues that affect our social study subject. Thank you for being here.